This controller update could be a game changer. September of 2023 proved Phil Spencer wrong. Here's when we can expect new stuff coming to Game Pass. And is Xbox more interested in mobile gaming? Let's discuss. What's up guys, and welcome to Xbox Ready, the YouTube channel that's all about Xbox. I'm back here with another video to update you on everything going on in the world of Xbox to make sure that you are Xbox ready. We'll talk about Xbox's latest accessibility update, which allows you to put keyboard bindings on your controller, how September 2023 proved Phil Spencer wrong, and speaking of Phil Spencer, he recently appeared on the Xbox official podcast, and we're going to break down all the interesting stuff that he had to say as part of his interview. Microsoft is rolling out an accessibility update for Xbox consoles, and I gotta say, the work that they do on this front, making sure that their hardware and their games are accessible to a wide variety of gamers, it's admirable. I think the co-pilot feature for Xbox controllers are really cool, splitting up the left and right parts of the controller and then splitting it over two controllers. The adaptive controller is really cool, and I don't think there's an equivalent of that controller over on PlayStation or Nintendo. And we've seen Xbox throw in some updates in the past that include colorblind filters, accessibility tags, so you know exactly what games have to offer on that front. And they're going back and doing it again. They're giving us another update that has some really exciting features, mainly the ability to take mouse and keyboard bindings and put them onto an Elite Series 2 or Xbox adaptive controller. This has been something that they've been working on for a while in the Xbox Insider program, but it's going to be available to all Xbox customers over the next couple of months. And once that happens, you will be able to remap any of the buttons on your Elite Series 2 or Xbox adaptive controller to any of the over 90 key bindings on a mouse and keyboard setup. It'll all be controlled in the Xbox Accessories app on Xbox and PC. You'll be able to play mouse and keyboard only games with your controller, and this is a really cool update that comes at a very interesting time, specifically right when Microsoft closes the deal for Activision Blizzard. They now have control over a bunch of games, a bunch of franchises that are known as PC only, or they got famous on PC. Games like World of Warcraft, games like Diablo. And while we've seen in the past couple of years games that are traditionally PC only, mouse and keyboard only, being translated over to controller or gamepad, like Age of Empires, this could maybe open up the door for controller support on World of Warcraft. Maybe we get it on Game Pass. Maybe we get it on console. What's cool about this specifically is that you can do combination commands and then map that to your Xbox controller, and that is clutch. It also instantly raises the value of the Elite Series 2. It's a controller that you can use with your console, on your PC. You can use it for games that only have mouse and keyboard support. The versatility of that thing just shot through the roof. Another part of this update, and I kind of feel bad seeing that it's a part of this update, is the contactless way to connect a new Xbox wireless controller to your console. This is a feature that I showed off in a previous video for the September update, and it's very similar to how you would pair Joy-Cons to a Nintendo Switch. You go to a specific menu, and then you press buttons on your controller, and then your console kind of senses it, and then does it all for you. You no longer have to go up to your console, press the sync button, press the sync button on your Xbox controller, none of that. You don't have to do any of that anymore. And at the time when I was talking about it and showing it to you guys, I was like, man, this is gonna make people like super lazy. It's gonna make me super lazy. I don't even need to get up. I don't even need to get up off of my chair or couch to pair a new Xbox controller. But the whole intention, it turns out, according to this post on the Xbox Wire, was to make it so that people who are maybe wheelchair bound or have other motor disabilities don't have to get up to their console in order to pair a new controller. And now I feel bad, but it is a cool feature, it is very convenient, and it feels like it's bringing controller pairing into the modern era. The Xbox Game Bar will now feature a new accessibility settings menu with various options to help make the tool and PC games more accessible. And they're also going to have a playbook for accessible gaming events. They'll share what they have learned through its own gaming events with a new playbook for accessible gaming events, a new tool that event planners in the industry can use to guide their planning for gaming events and improve accessibility for attendees. LEDs. Now again, these features are not yet available, at least not to me, but over the next couple of months, you will be able to mess around with this whole keyboard to Elite Series 2 binding situation. I'm really looking forward to it. I think potentially that could be a game-changing feature, not just for accessibility, but for Xbox as a business, especially as they continue to push into the PC gaming market. Let's do a little bit of a rewind. In the month of September, it was a pretty dang good month for Xbox. The launch of Starfield, we got a bunch of other really cool games like Lies of P, Party Animals. I'm still working through a bunch of those games. I haven't even touched Payday 3. And it turns out that September 2023 was the best in terms of console sales for Xbox since 2016. In the past 7 years, they haven't had a September as good as the one they just had. According to VG charts, Xbox Series X and S had the best September for Xbox since September 2016 in terms of units sold, and the best since September 2014 in terms of dollar sales. So they're seeing like record money numbers, y'all. And not only that, the Xbox Series X and S dollar sales increased in the single-digit percentage, while the PlayStation 5 and Nintendo Switch saw declines year on year. Now this is obviously great news for Xbox. And why did they maybe have their best September in a really long time? Well, coincidentally, or not so coincidentally, Starfield launched, and it was the best-selling game in the month of September. It's gone on to be the 7th best-selling game in 2023, behind games like Hogwarts Legacy, Tears of the Kingdom, Diablo 4, Modern Warfare 2, and a couple of others. I think Madden's in there randomly. Like, people are always buying Madden. And I bring that to your attention because it directly contradicts something that Phil Spencer said earlier in the year. Now let me take you further back into time. It's spring 2023. Redfall just launched, and everyone is taking just like dogpiling on the game. People are just absolutely dunking on it. Reviewers are super critical of it. It's one of Xbox's biggest blunders in a long time. But just days after Redfall launched, you know, after Xbox and Arcane was the laughingstock of frickin' the video game industry, Phil Spencer appeared on the Kinda Funny Xcast, much to everyone's shock. People couldn't believe that he was stepping out and doing an interview right after the launch of Redfall. And over the course of the interview, I feel like he was saying the right things. He was critical of himself, critical of Xbox, but towards the end, he said something which to this day confuses me. He said something like, people always say that just make games and people are gonna buy the console. I don't think that's the case. He mentioned something about like, well, we've already lost like last generation, and that's where everyone's digital libraries were built up. So it's like, we're really, really behind, and I don't think we can ever catch up. That was kind of the gist of what he's saying, and I just don't understand why he said that? And I would argue that Xbox's performance in the month of September directly contradicts that. They had the #1 selling game at the time, Starfield, and it just so happens that that's when they sold the most Xbox consoles. So from where I'm standing, it's like, yeah, if you make good games, if you make good exclusives, then people will buy your console. And I'm not saying that everyone buys a video game console specifically for the exclusives. We're seeing, especially on the PlayStation 5, where a lot of people are like, oh yeah, PlayStation exclusives blow Xbox out of the water, but when you look at the data, most of their player base is just using it to play Call of Duty or Madden or FIFA, games like that. But in terms of like people as a customer, exclusives could be a deciding factor. It's like, okay, well, sure, I'm going to be playing Madden or Call of Duty, whatever, but if I want the option, I want to play Spider-Man. Xbox needs to keep giving people reasons to buy a Series X or S. Starfield, you know, that was a great moment in time for them, but they got to keep the ball rolling with their other exclusives. The month of September also kind of shows the power of PlayStation 5 in terms of its market presence, because even though Xbox had a really great September, they were still in second place, right behind Sony in terms of their sales of PlayStation 5s. And this is coming during a year where Sony, they don't got no first-party games, none. Nothing. Not until probably this video goes up and we're all playing Spider-Man 2. Outside of the stuff that they came out with for PSVR 2 this year, what else has there been over on the PS5 side? I mean, Forspoken, which is up until Redfall's release was one of the worst reviewed games of the year. Another Square exclusive with Final Fantasy 16, but outside of that, it's been pretty dry. Did not affect the sales of PlayStations going into the month of September. It could be that a bunch of people were like, oh, I really need to get a PlayStation 5 in order to play Spider-Man 2. But unfortunately, it just shows how dominant that PlayStation has been this generation compared to the Xbox Series X and S. It's like when Xbox has a year like 2022 when they don't really have a lot going on with their first party, sales go down. But when PlayStation does it, it doesn't seem to affect them. And that's crazy to think about. That's crazy. Speaking of Phil Spencer, he recently appeared on an episode of the Xbox Official Podcast. And if you're not aware, the official Xbox Podcast is back. They brought it back. Shout out to my boy Jeff, Malik, and I was gonna say my girl Tina, but I've never met her. I've only met Jeff and Malik. They're really cool, and I like what they're doing with the podcast, and I heartily recommend that you check it out yourself. It's the only podcast that's officially backed by Xbox. There's a lot, and in his appearance on the Xbox Official Podcast, Phil Spencer had some interesting things to say. Here are the highlights. Number one, he confirmed that there's pretty much no chance in hell that we're going to be seeing any Activision Blizzard titles coming to Game Pass in 2023. This is something that we were sort of prepared for because they were like, yeah, we can't get Modern Warfare 3 on Game Pass just yet, or Diablo 4. Like, the newer stuff is off the table. But a lot of people were thinking like, oh, well, what about their older games? What about their back catalog? Publications like Windows Central were saying things like, oh yeah, as soon as the deal is closed, we'll be seeing a bunch of games from the Activision Blizzard catalog on Game Pass. And that looks like it's just not going to happen. Phil Spencer said, and I quote, "The regulatory process took so long that we weren't able to get in and work with the Activision Blizzard on the back catalog work. Now that the deal is closed, we're starting that work, but there is work. I would love it if there was some kind of secret celebration drop that's coming in the next couple of weeks. There's not." He mentioned the tweet that Activision Blizzard recently put out saying, oh, 2024 is more of the target date for our stuff coming to Game Pass, and he said, yeah, that sounds more realistic. And yeah, that's kind of a disappointment. I would say like a minor disappointment because I got so many other games I need to play, but Xbox fans have been through the ringer when it comes to following this acquisition. And so to hear as a fan, oh crap, finally the deal is closed, but you don't see any immediate benefits, it's kind of a bummer. But once they start migrating over Activision Blizzard games to Game Pass, whenever that is, whenever they complete like their compatibility work or their integration, whatever they have to do, it'll be really nice to play those titles at no additional cost with my Game Pass subscription. The question is, will it stay that way? Are they going to raise the price of Game Pass once they put their Activision Blizzard stuff on there? And I know that's kind of on the forefront of everyone's minds. There's a lot of anxiety surrounding that. Subscription services are raising their prices left and right, and a lot of the times for no reason. Xbox held off on a price increase for Game Pass for, I feel like, as long as they could until just recently when they bumped the prices. It'll be interesting to see how long they wait after they put Activision Blizzard stuff on the service before they bump it again. I have a feeling that they will bump it again. And if they do bump it again, will you keep subscribed? Are you going to keep your subscription active? Let me know in the comments. Phil also took on the question of mobile games, what their intention is with going into the mobile gaming market. Now, in all the trials, all the investigations that were going on last year, Phil Spencer said, like, okay, if we got to make a play into the mobile gaming market, that's the only way we're going to achieve our business goals. That's the only way we're going to stay viable going into the future. He mentioned Xbox's plans to potentially reach 2 billion players around the world. And he's like, yeah, we're not doing that unless we make a break into the mobile gaming market, which is where the majority of video games are played, strangely enough. And that he was surprised that Activision stuff is like right up there in terms of like a mobile gaming revenue. Games like, you know, Call of Duty Mobile, Warzone Mobile, Diablo Immortal, stuff like that. But while Phil Spencer is excited about the future of Xbox in the mobile gaming space, I know a lot of people are worried, thinking, oh, is Xbox just going to be known as a company that makes games for phones? Are they going to be just mobile games? Are we going to see like Halo mobile version or Psychonauts mobile? Like just like downgraded versions of their flagship games slapped onto a phone. And as far as what he is saying, that's not going to be the case. Phil Spencer said, it doesn't mean I want to turn all of our franchises into mobile franchises. It doesn't mean everything's going free to play. I think the distribution and business model diversity that we have is a strength of the platform. People who want to buy games, I love that. People who want to subscribe to their games, great. Now, that last sentence, people who want to subscribe to their games, great. Probably not going to go over well with a lot of people. There's a lot of resentment towards live service games, subscribe to play, renting games through whatever service. Because if it was up to me, that would be Xbox's smallest part of their gaming business. Subscribe to play games, mobile games, but it's where the money is, unfortunately. And all I can hope for at this point is that, you know, with Xbox in charge of King, Call of Duty Mobile, Warzone Mobile, that, you know, they'll have that going on, but it'll just be a way for them to make revenue for their gaming sector and then pour that revenue and those profits into their other games and make some really dope first-party stuff. And last but not least, Phil Spencer said that pretty much anything is on the table when it comes to Xbox revisiting old franchises. When he further elaborated, he said, hey, I don't want to like go in and force people to revisit an old franchise. I want them to work on something that they're passionate about. He said, when I think about it, not just Activision Blizzard King, you add in Bethesda, you add in Xbox's history, Rare, the amount of franchises we now have in our portfolio is kind of inspiring. It's daunting. I feel that we have to be a great custodian for the content that we touch. These memories for people on different platforms, different decades, and I want to make sure that when we're going back and visiting something that we do it with our complete ability, a motivated team that wants to go work on something and make a difference, not just create something for a financial gain or create something for a PR announcement and not deliver. And we could be looking back on these comments that Phil Spencer is making in 10 years and being like, wow, yeah, Xbox really enabled their teams to go and revisit this old franchise that they were really passionate about, and they just absolutely knocked it out of the park. Or we could be looking back on it and being like, ooh, they did not do a good job of bringing back X franchise, X game. Phil Spencer himself would love to see a MechAssault revival. I talked in my previous video about wanting to see the comeback of the True Crime franchise. I just think that would be dope. But yeah, Xbox is in charge of a lot of IP now, a lot of historic IP. And as we know, in the entertainment industry, as of right now, IP is king. People don't want to take gambles on new stuff because they don't always work out. But when you release a game like Spider-Man, people are like, oh, I know what I'm getting. I want to buy Spider-Man. Anyways, guys, that's all the Xbox stuff I have to talk about today. Thanks so much for joining me for another edition of Xbox Ready. I now have an official Xbox Ready Instagram account. I made the mistake of funneling people to my personal page on Instagram, and I realize now that my content is all over the place. I'll be talking about, oh, I'm here for my sister's wedding down in Mexico, look at me, and then the next post will be like, breaking news, new Xbox console just leaked. So I realize that was a mistake now, guys, so I'm going to go back to having a separate page for Xbox Ready stuff, Xbox news, Xbox content, but if you want to give me a follow on my personal page, that's always there as well. And since I'm going to be doing stuff on the Xbox Ready Instagram, I'm also going to be just posting that stuff on TikTok. Why not? So if you're interested in that, give me a follow there as well. I'd really appreciate it, and we'll see you in the next video.